Viv can't trick anyone. Her character is very heavily derivative of other Disney characters, and I'm not saying that taking inspiration from an existing character is inherently bad, but I do believe it becomes an issue when it's clear you like certain traits of them, and you're trying to emulate it without understanding why it worked in the first place. There's a lot of overlap with Husk and Alastor and DrFacilier. I feel like Husk isn't given too much on his character. I know they're all quite underdeveloped, they're kind of one-note characters for the most part, but Husk especially. Love in the Bottle thankfully gives him a bit more characterization, and it details his mindset on why he might easily fall back into alcoholism or gambling. And I'll also say, I think that Keith David's voice fits Husk perfectly. I'm really glad that they didn't stick with the Rick and Morty type for him. I've seen people complain that Keith David's just sort of doing his own voice for the character, and they don't feel as if that voice is as connected to Husk. But if you ask me, the other one was even more distant from him, not like, it didn't feel like him, you know what I mean? But Alastor feels a lot more heavily based on DrFacilier in the personality and in the looks and stuff. With the time period he was alive, the deal making, the puppets, the voodoo, and the shadow that slithers around and follows him, it's hard to ignore how much is derived from that character. Today I'll be going over a few, like I said, I have on Al as well as Husk, and talking about Husk a bit because I do think he needs some attention. So since my last video on Alastor, the season has ended, and we did get to see that his plan all along was to get Charlie to say that Vox was more powerful than him, so that Vox would end up breaking his deal indirectly, and then he could be free to be the most powerful sinner. And that was broken with Vox touching Charlie's shoulders. I guess this worked because Vox gets stronger off his approval rating or something. Also, could Alastor not have gotten Charlie to declare him as the most powerful sinner a lot sooner? Or like, I guess it was cool to see everything click into place, but it didn't necessarily feel rewarding. I didn't really catch enough of a setup to this, only the fact that Vox is super touchy. The plan felt poorly portrayed. I saw someone make like a point on how, like, now that the deal's broken, could Rosie not take away his power immediately after? Would he not lose that? Because he never fulfilled his end of the deal, or like now that it's broken, wouldn't he just lose his powers? Because his power was reliant on the fact that he was in a deal with Rosie. So it's a little confusing why he's now all of a sudden getting to stay at the top of the hierarchy, but I digress. Let's compare it to DrFacilier a little bit. I forgot to rewatch the movie before making this video, but I feel like there was a more clear vision of what he was gonna do. I got to spend more time with him, and we got like real foreshadowing for what he wants. We get to learn throughout the runtime that his deal and how he tried to please his friends on the other side, and the powers he has feel more grounded, or like they have clear rules set to them. Alastor generally can kind of just do whatever he wants for some reason. Like, he's got tentacles and green, he can like put up a giant shield around the hotel at one point in the first season. I don't really even know what the little tiny puppet people do. I guess it's just general voodoo. He complained about being in the hotel to Rosie, but then at the end he decided to go back to them. Supposedly he's gonna be season 3's villain, so we'll see how that goes. A part of me is holding out hope that he's gonna have somewhat of a return to his original characterization, being there for personal sadistic entertainment, and maybe sabotaging the redemption of other sinners from the inside. I firmly believe that the only thing that could break through Alastor's facade is if he were to see his mother in heaven and be forced to reflect on what he's become. I do like the mama's boy approach to Alastor. As for Husk, I want him to get a lot more outside of just being a father figure for Angel Dust, more than just being a know-it-all grumpy bartender too. I feel like there's so much more that could be explored with him, especially the fact that his sin is not related to murder and instead about his addiction, or at least that's what we're led to believe. I don't know if they're gonna have some reveal later on. No, he was actually a mass murderer or something ridiculous like that. We're yet to see his backstory as an overlord or any of his human life, but I'm sure that's coming soon. If not season 3, I guess we'll have to wait for season 4 or 5 or 6. Here's hoping that next season we get it. Of course, that could just be a general complaint for the main cast. Like, we didn't even get Angel's human backstory this season, but it sounds like we're going to be meeting his family next season, so I guess that would be better placement for learning what his life was like. Coming back to Alastor though, I didn't mention this in my previous Alastor video, but does anyone remember when his microphone used to talk to him? I kind of wish they kept that feature because it had its own little personality while it interacted with him. I think it only talked once. I do also believe that that was what had the sound effects of like the cheering and all that. So I kind of hope that they bring that back more. It saddens me, you know, he used to have that very prominent radio show host persona, but he's gradually degraded into talking more like an average teenage girl like the rest of the cast. Oh goodness. He swears so casually now when it used to be more reserved. In the pilot he never swore, but in the first season it was kind of just, it only happened when he was surprised and he, you know, it was just sort of an exclamation of, oh shoot, something happened, rather than him trying to be like everyone else. And he doesn't even use any 30s lingo anymore. None of the characters use language from the time period or references from when they were alive. And Husk gets random dumb scenes too this season, like when he was tied to the train tracks. Prior to that, when Charlie was trying to like set up when Charlie was trying to convince Angel to get redeemed or whatever, like Husk goes along with it instead of being like, hey, you're overstepping his boundaries, quit that. He's like, oh come on, you can do it, like why not try it, like worst you're stuck with me for longer, which that felt so out of character from it. And with the redemption attempt, when the train thing fails, he doesn't fend Angel thus pain. He gets angry at Angel for saving him, and that causes him to storm off and get out of the hotel, which is now two characters who quit the hotel for stupid reasons. Alastor leaving for being told to use a coaster, and Husk for getting rescued by Angel, I guess. Literally, if he had just yelled at Nifty, it would have made more sense, because, you know, she was the one that didn't even stop the train. And, you know, they're both owned by Alastor, Nifty and Husk. They're both under contract with him. So, you know, Nifty is more clearly on good terms with Alastor, and Husk certainly has a hatred for him, and they have a bit of a rivalry. So I think it would add sort of level of depth to Husk and Nifty's dynamic. Maybe Nifty didn't stop the train because she wanted to earn more of Al's approval or something like that, rather than it just being comedic relief, you know, like, oh haha, she's the crazy little girl that's gonna let this guy die. I also have to state again, I really dislike the romance between Angel and Husk, as I see Husk acting more like a father figure for him rather than being a slow burn romance. I don't really see how this is a mutually beneficial relationship for them, more so Angel getting the therapy that he desperately needs. Also, Charlie's really a jerk for making Husk act as a therapist for every random guest in the hotel, just because he's good at reading people or connecting with Angel. Ideally in season 3 we'll get to see Alastor acting more like his old self again, instead of just these snarky, sort of sarcastic remarks. And I hope to see Husk getting more independent characterization outside of Angel's character. Anyways, I know I originally set up this video to connect them to DrFacilier, but I more so just wanted to complain about how these two characters got treated in season 2. Really want to see Husk get better. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and there's the new hype feature. Gotta make sure I mention that in my videos now. Use that if you want. And see you next time. Love you.